Hey, I'm Forrest, or Angel on Fyra. I'm one of the core developers of Veloren, an open source game in which you explore or fight your way around a beautiful open world. This weekend, we're releasing Veloren 0.12, and we're super excited to celebrate some of the new features of this release. Let's take a look at some of the changes. First off, the mount system was overhauled. New jumping animations allow for some great movement abilities. You can also engage in mounted combat and interact with entities while mounted. One of my favorite visual changes are the new water shaders. Now, lakes look far more ominous the deeper you swim, and you can see some really great interactions with the light and the water. Speaking of water, waterfalls were also added. They occur in locations where there is a steep decline in a river's height. There has also been a lot of work done on water sounds by rivers to mix more effects together. This is the result. There is now more happening on the forest floor with shrubs recently implemented. But beware, arthropods have just been added, so keep an eye out. Unless you're looking for a fight, but in that case you'd be better off checking out the new gnarling forts. You'll probably need your friends with you to conquer this stronghold. As you can see, they're a worthy opponent, even if it's that way through their sheer numbers. I haven't gone through every change as a part of 0.12, but you can take a look at our changelog to see everything. In random shuffled order, here are all of the contributors of the 1,337 commits for 0.12. Also remember, there are a lot of non-developer contributors who have put time into this release. As always, today, the 19th of February, at 1800 GMT, we'll be running our release party. It's taking place on our main server, and we're hoping to pass our previous record of 183 players on the server at once. See you there.
Hello, hello. Okay, I think I think you can hear me. You might be able to see me soon too. My computer just crashed while I was trying to stream Chrome here to show off Grafana. Oh, you can hear me. Very cool. Let me see if I can get Grafana up and running here. Chrome. All right, I'm going to join from my other browser. 1 second. Hello? Okay, there we go. Now I can see myself talking here. And now I want to see if I can share my screen. Window, we'll go over here. Ooh, that's pretty cool. All right, so, and maybe we might even get my webcam soon too. Let me figure out what's going on there. Okay, this should be the webcam. Fancy graphs, yes. Oh, now you can even see me. Nice. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Veloren launch party for 0.12. And yeah, in chat, wow, 150 players right now. We're actually at like 169 right now. Nice. So we're like 10 away from our record, and we just started, and I haven't done a double ping. Let me just boot up Discord here, because I know everybody who's in the Discord server can't hear me right now. Oh no. Wait, okay, it didn't crash. Something crashed my computer just a few minutes ago, and I haven't figured out what. Oh, people can hear me on Discord? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think, do you want to do an announcement now? I feel like people know that it's happening. Do we do an announcement? Right, let's take a look at some of the graphs here before we start. Also, I need to see if I can get into the game. All right. On a 4K monitor, so I have to like set up my windows nicely for streaming purposes. All right, Firefox is coming up. All right, yeah, so I want to take a look here. So our number of players is pretty high right now. CPU's doing all right. Networking, surprised it's not spiking past like 50 megabytes per second. Technically, we can handle up to like 100. People are saying it's possible to climb parkour walls. We got some hellos in chat. Very cool. Hannibal's been working quite a lot recently on getting today's map ready, so thank you so much, Hannibal. All right, so let's take a look at some of the stats before we dive into the gameplay, though, because this is dev chats. Oh wait, no, technical difficulties are officially over, unless like the server like burns down, which is like once we go above our records, then we're in uncharted territory. But let's take a look at the server tick, because this is the one that you can gather the most information from. And also, I just want to make sure I can log in here. Veloren.net, that is my password. All right, multiplayer, let's go. This release has been a long time coming, 5 months on this one. I'm still specced out with my stuff from last time, all right. Also, for today's release party, as I mentioned, Hannibal's been doing a lot of work to get different assets into the game, but we've been doing some interesting stuff with the map as well. And so Zester did some world gen stuff recently that allows you to have like more circular worlds and not just like purely square. And so I've been playing around with the like just like seeding different ones, playing with some of these settings recently, and like the map on the world is looking pretty cool. So we'll get into some of that later. I see we got 30 people listening along on Discord. Awesome. We got, where's my StreamYard? 16 on YouTube and Twitch. Awesome. Let's turn on some of my audio here. All right. Oh, also, StreamYard has like this new ability where I can put some music on. I wish I could like upload music, because then I could just like upload all of Velourin's stuff. But okay, what do we got here? We'll listen to this for a bit. This is like Velourin themed, but it's not the good stuff that we have. When I was making the trailer yesterday, I was like listening through a lot of the songs that we have, that people like the composer put together, and there's some like really high quality content that I'm like, this type of stuff is like what I'd expect from like a AAA game type of thing. And so it's really cool to hear the stuff that the community has come up with. All right, so doing a quick breakdown on some of the server stats here. All right, so we have seen that we're already at like 170 players, let's say. And the scariest thing for us is when our tick rates start going up above, like say like 50 milliseconds each. So right now we're like 38 milliseconds, 40 milliseconds. Some stuff is going up a little bit. But what this comes down to, and actually let me look at the last like 15 minutes here. Yeah, so like we're looking at 40-ish, some are popping higher. But the main idea here is that we aim to have 30 ticks per second, which means that we have to have each tick be less than 33 milliseconds. And if it goes above, then that's when people start feeling lag and rubber banding and stuff has to catch up. And so we're not struggling too much right now. Now, as for systems, so last time at our last release party, the one that was taking the most was Entity Sync. And it was because it wasn't parallelized. So once we got to this many players, so right now, holy smokes, we're 177. So we're close. We're close. Okay, I think someone said I can ping. It's a good idea to ping News Ping Squad. Let me do I'm gonna ping everybody who's not like, or who has like some role that's worth pinging. All right, we'll do that. Yeah, because we're going up. We're like, okay, 180. We're about to break a record here. Very cool. I think so. It's definitely gonna be hard to hit like, well, I don't know. Maybe we will gain people over time. But like, I want to say, if we hit 250 today, that would be insane. Because for us, the first time that we hit like 80 players, all of the core devs were blown away by the fact that the server can handle this many players. And so now it's like, okay, well, what milestone do we need to hit next so that we can eventually hit the goal of, say, like 1,000 players on the server? And like 250 is a good number where it's like, okay, now we can say that it's possible to do 250 on like the server hardware we have. We can also see with CPUs that parallelization is happening pretty nicely across a lot of different cores. But because the server tick is still higher than we want, that means that there's some single-threaded tasks that are still holding up some of the work. Yeah, okay, here's another one that's interesting. We can take a look at the total CPU time burned by certain tasks. We can see that terrain is taking 380 milliseconds for every 728 milliseconds for each server tick. But since this is distributed across the 48 cores, then it evens itself out. So Entity Sync still quite high, but it's parallelized. And so Entity Sync was showing us like 4 milliseconds or something. Agent System 164. Physics. So these are the ones that we're expecting. It's sort of surprising that terrain is so high, I think. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just because we have so many people exploring. But All right, so what are we at now? 184. Let's go. All right, so there we go. We are officially setting new records here with how many players we've had online at the server at once. Xmac, can I get you to join in the StreamYard link that I sent in working group? Or in like the working groups lead, just because the stream wouldn't be able to hear you right now. Please stream on non-proprietary platforms. Yes. I guess like if it's possible for me to set up on StreamYard to do that, then that would not be too bad at all. I haven't taken a look at what else I can stream to. Twitch and YouTube are pretty easy to get up and running and accessible for most people. I've also historically used OBS for streaming, and so now or now that I'm using StreamYard, it's just convenience of like making sure that like my stuff doesn't crash halfway through. Yeah, streams on YouTube. I do wish I had an easier way of saying like split the chat between YouTube, Twitch, and Discord, but I haven't found a way to do it. Xmac is saying these numbers of 184 aren't super accurate, but I mean, this is the number we use. Holy smokes, 190. Oh yeah, so I guess it's either people at the menu or bots, or but I mean that's a constant number. That's like a constant 5 or whatever. Okay, what else do we have here? So server memory. It still amazes me that the memory is like under 10 gigabytes with this many players. Network is to be expected. Entity count is cool. I was showing this off to a friend yesterday when I recorded the trailer. There's that one part where I spawned like a whole bunch of arthropods. I'm using the right word this time. And I spawned a whole bunch, and they're like, holy smokes, that's crazy that your computer can handle that. And I'm pretty sure I've done it before, but I've spawned like thousands, and it was still doing pretty all right. But bless Entity Component Systems for that. Yeah, so this is showing like the amount of parallelism. So we're seeing that it's like about 25 to 30% is able to like split up onto each core. Anything else interesting here? I'm not sure. Yeah, waiting for 300. This is true. Arthropods, yes. Froggy pointing out, yes. Wait, did I say it wrong this time? I think so. In the trailer and almost in like the blog post and the announcement I put out today, I said anthropods because I thought, like, for whatever reason in my head, that seemed like the right way to call spiders. But arthropods, yeah, okay. All right, so let me see. Who do I have here with me? I think I have. You're very cool. All right, I've got my teleportation stick, and one sec. I want to see. I don't. Can someone remind me how I can turn off world chat? Gameplay. I won't worry too much about that. Oh, sorry, Xmac, I now added you to stream, so we should be able to hear you now.
Test.
Yes, you are all good.
Hello.
Oh, F5 for no chat. That's so easy. When I was recording yesterday, I couldn't figure out how to turn off chat, and so it's just like the trailer has a lot of places where it'd be nice if the chat wasn't there. But anyways, Xmac, do you want to tell us a little bit about how some of these numbers are maybe like for example, when we're looking at player numbers, how they're portrayed in what we see?
Definitely. For player numbers, we see the graph over players over the time here. Mm-hmm. And we see that we are almost dipping in the 200 areas. Mm-hmm. So right now we are 15 players left to the 200. but I can also tell some insights. And we see like a little green and red bar every time someone is joining or leaving. So this is useful to detect, for example, waves of people getting kicked. In case we would have a network issue, we would see many people getting kicked and a red spike would occur. So, but we see that's just normal people joining and leaving all the time, which is quite fair, of course.
Yeah. Sorry, just one thing. So someone's mentioning in chat they can't hear XMAC. So XMAC, are you able to join the stage as well? And then what we do is I mute you and you mute me, so that we can like be on the stage for everybody listening to the stage, and then on the stream. And I'd like to have a relay of it somehow, but I do not have the ease of setting that up.
Okay, perfect.
Oh yes.
Hello to the stage.
Now I will go and self-mute you so that so you're probably hearing me double right now unless you mute me, but easy peasy.
I muted you already in the stage.
All right, sounds good. Taking a look at chat here. We see we got Timo here, very cool.
Right.
Bug thingies, yes, this is a scientific term. So instead of saying arthropods, I mean, we'll just say we've added more bug thingies to the game.
Yeah, I wanted to tell something about the other numbers.
Yes, let's go to some other stuff here.
For example, if we scroll down, there we see this big red lines for the terrain and physics thing, and this is the cost it would have. It would cost 600 milliseconds if we would just have a one-core server. And it's just like, but as it's parallelized, we can do this much quicker because we have to have 48 cores on our server, right?
Yeah.
So actually, this is just like 10 milliseconds in parallel. Though, to be fair, those numbers are a bit incorrect because of calculations, errors, and rounding, which is fixed to be soon probably, but it's not that important.
And is it showing us higher or lower, do you think?
It's actually lower. Because we are assuming that if message terrain is taking 10 milliseconds, then we are assuming it's using this 10 milliseconds on all 48 cores. But actually sometimes the library using specs is not threading it to all 48 cores, but maybe just to 20. But we don't have a way to measure this, so we just assume it's the maximum core size. So maybe it's just half of that, actually.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think the thing I find quite interesting is like if let's say we got one of these like new AMD EPYC chips and like got the full server of like 128 threads or something like that. Then it would be interesting to know what the diminishing returns are after you keep adding more cores, because for example, sourcing work like terrain or entity sync or agent or physics, these are really good to move off thread where possible because they're just like a ton of work. But then I know that like our main bottleneck is how much we can do on the main thread that has to go through an entire tick. And so I do wonder like where are our sweet spots right now for how many cores you can use. So
we can of course not tell you how good we scale all the time, but you mentioned this 25% line in one of the graphs a few minutes ago, and this means like we are currently using 25% of our server. We are just using 25%, so if we would optimize the server, we could get up to 4 times more performance, 4 times more players, or the tick is slower. With this setup, if we go in the timeline and go back maybe 2 days and see how it was 2 days ago, last 2 days or something, or last 7 days.
And then so like back over, so this is like the main, like the release server is like really low over here. But if we go take a look at just like some arbitrary time scale,
right, there we see that the numbers are actually, it's hard to read for me.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Those are maybe not good because there we had low players, so need something where the green and yellow bars are quite high, so that the server was under load then, and in this time where the server wasn't that much.
It looks like right about here should be good.
Right, there we see that we can go up to 40% usage with 16 cores. So right, if we would have a 16 core server, we would use 40% of each core, but now we have 48 core server, we just use 25%. And of course, the much more cores we get, the more we decline here. because we have those single bottlenecks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what we will do after this party is we will analyze where we have those, and then fix one by one by one, so that we
Yeah,
are
exactly.
more future-proof.
And so, yeah, this is like why it's valuable for us to have so many players on at once, is because then we can take a look at this and we can see, like, so I'll just look at like last 5 minutes. By looking at this, holy smokes, 195, crazy. We can more easily know, okay, like in the server tick, what's taking up the most time, or rather, if we wanted to go fix something, it makes sense for us to fix the thing that's taking the most time. So right now, state's like taking like a ton of time, and that breaks down to like a whole bunch of other stuff and so on. And so if we can optimize that, then in theory, if we got to 500 players, then it would have a much larger benefit, or it would make for a much larger difference than optimizing one of the smaller systems or something. And so our goal, and I mean, the other beauty about it is that CPUs over the next 10 years are going to be scaling up in the number of threads that they have. And they're going to be getting like stronger in single core stuff, like ability, clock cycles, and what you can do for each clock cycle. But there'll be more cores, and we can benefit so much from that as we grow. And so as long as we make it so that our main thread is doing as little work as possible, then it will become very easy for us to say, okay, well, AMD, you just released this like new server that we can use in our data center, or this new CPU, and then we can do some awesome stuff with that. I do also want to mention, so someone mentioned the stream settings might be different. I will add that, like, because I'm doing this with StreamYard is like $25 a month for 720p, and then you got to pay another $25 just to get 1080p. So we're stuck here at like in 2011 with this 720p goodness, but yeah, it kind of is what it is. I hope that when I'm streaming Velourin, I'm just gonna change my window over here too. Velourin, and we can see. All right. So let me just go and put our cameras down here. Oh yeah, it works well. Okay, cool. I'm curious on if anybody like who's watching along, how does like the bit rate's gonna be mediocre. How does like movement look and stuff like that? Where I am right now. Yes, we can do a command here. /location party. All right, and I can get teleported to everybody else who's Oh, nice. Is this where the we're on an island here, but I do know that a lot of work that Hannibal's been doing may or may not be visible here. Wait, there's the exit. All right, let's see, because the mini map showing some pretty cool stuff. Oh yeah, this is awesome. So in Velourin, we've done a lot of work. One sec. Is this? I don't know if this is like one of the admins or not, but we'll see. All right, so in Velourin, like, we have our towns, we have our dungeons, and they're all procedurally generated through some like quite interesting systems that all work together. And so the systems that decide where they get, like, where a village might be placed in the world, or where a dungeon might be placed, and then systems that design how dungeons are like laid out. And a lot of it like it's all procedural. And so the idea that when you have a village, it was spawned in because of certain settings that it sees, or like settings and like locations and randomness and all of this. And so it's built by a set of like functional instructions. Now, on the other hand, Hannibal's been doing a lot of work to set up this place, which is not procedurally generated, and instead is the effort of actually going about and building all of this. And I mean, I am not like an expert in how. I was like, oh, are we on this tiny island? But no, we're on. It's just placed on the ocean. Okay, that's awesome. And so I guess, like, yeah, it makes sense that the map doesn't show that off, because it only renders the I suppose it renders the map before, like, as world gen is placed and everything like that. All right, I got a whole party with me here. So Hannibal's been doing a lot of work, and maybe with other people, I'm not sure who all has gone into it. who's put work into it. However, they've come up with like these really amazing cities. All right, I guess I can just zoom out. Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, look at that. How cool is that? It's like a little floating city here. We got like trees and stuff. We got places to explore in there. 99% handable, yes. Oh, Abby, can I get you to join in the StreamYard as well? Just a link that's in working group leads right here. Okay, people are saying that the 720p is not not good, and I should just pay the extra 25 to upgrade to Pro again. So I do it like for certain months when I'm like doing like some big streams or something. 720p. I don't know if I could upgrade a broadcast. So I apologize that you're not getting all the goodness of the graphics that are going on. I'm just going to get Avi into the StreamYard here, and then we can talk about some more stuff. Yeah, and so this is sort of like developer stream. Like the idea is that it's like during the release party and stuff like that, but we got to hop on and talk about where like a lot of the work was placed and stuff like that. So I think we might have Zester on in a little bit to talk maybe a little bit about mounts, a little bit about some water shaders, lots of stuff here and there. XMAC has like a lot of insights into like how the networking and how the server stuff is going. We're defacing the beautiful stone here. All right, let me get Avi in here. All right, if you try talking, we should be able to hear you.
Okay, and I'm muted on the stage, but audible through the Streamlab or StreamYard?
Yes, but if you unmute on the stage, then what we'll do is just like I'll go and mute you for myself, and so so people in the stage can still hear that everything is going on as well. I like this comment. Real programmers stream with FFmpeg. We'd love to see it. All right.
Okay, so now I'm unmuted in the stage, but deafened in the stage, so people on both can hear me, and I only hear you guys through the StreamYard.
But then I think if you deafen on the stage, then I think other people on the stage can't hear you. And so I think you need to undeafen on the stage, but then you need to right-click on XMAC and myself and mute us. It's overly complex, but it ends up working. Just a question I see here in chat. How do you feel Velourin compares to something like Trove in terms of scalability now and into the future? Is instancing something we might see in the future, or do you think it could go against a grand MMO experience? And so there's definitely been a lot of discussion, and this is like quite an open-ended topic in the sense that there's definitely a lot of games that if someone comes and works on Velourin that they've been inspired by. And so a lot of them, okay, well, I think someone's painting something here. Very cool. A lot of games that have like been like inspired a lot of the developers are something like Cube World, Dwarf Fortress is an inspiration for a lot of the world generation and economy simulation. We have like obviously Minecraft, Trove, a lot of these other voxel games. And so it's definitely a lot to do with what people are inspired by and what people who work on these like larger multiplayer systems or like contribute to like certain parts of the design bring to it. And so I think for scalability, like our idea of scalability is the fact that like since we can work super well multi-core, then our upper limit should be based on what hardware can do going into the future and not just what we can do with our optimizations. And so like our goal that we had thrown around was like 1,000 players on the server, and that's like a far enough goal away that it's like, and it's nebulous. We're not entirely sure how we're gonna get all the way there. We're gonna keep working until we get there, but it's not necessarily something that we have like completely figured out. And so I as for like stuff like MMOs and like sharding and different servers and stuff like that, there's a lot that we can experiment with this. Okay, this is pretty cool. Check that out. That's some good art right there. And so with the idea of sharding, setting up multiple servers, having geolocated servers, so like I'm in North America and I might be able to play closer to something that's like in like where I am, sort of. And so all of this type of stuff, there's a lot of experimentation to have. And since it's open source, I mean, there's a lot that can be done to improve the or like try out new things and explore here. So yeah, a lot of potential there. All right, so Abby, you were mentioning the I think something about maybe the city, or yes,
yeah,
yes.
So you were mentioning how in the full map, the one with M, the city doesn't appear because that's a pre-rendering of the terrain based on world gen, not including chunk gen, which includes the things that were manually placed by Zester and Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see on your mini map in the upper right, the blocks are rendered there.
True, this is true, and even some of the explosions are getting rendered here. That's interesting.
Yeah, if you leave the chunks and so like walk like a couple blocks to or like a couple of chunks to the west and then east or something, it should re-render those.
Okay, so if I leave and I come back, I've lost myself. I must be over here. Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so the mini map is based on the actual like the voxel data. It renders essentially like slices of a top-down view, and then has some heuristics to find a ceiling overhead and then use the slice corresponding to that ceiling. Mm-hmm. So if you go into one of the buildings, it'll show you what the view is of the interior of the building instead of the roof.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing some stuff happening there. Can I... Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. Is it possible to make it bigger? I don't think so. All right, so... Oh, wow, this is so cool. So because there's like this like sort of steeple on the top of this place, then we're seeing like a cross-section of that as I move around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Then, I guess, can you look up at the ceiling in this room to see... So because there's ceiling above you, the diamond pattern on the floor is visible.
Okay, I see. Let's go to a different building. Go, but that was sure before. Oh yeah, cool. So like as I walk under here, then it can like redo the entire like sort of skeleton of this area because that's like the same thing that I'm under.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let's see. So 187 players right now. Good. So this time, last release party, we were having a lot more lag, I think. What's my lag right now? 126 milliseconds. That's pretty solid, considering I'm like different continent. With like because it came down to the fact that like when it's trying to send information to each player, that was taking time that wasn't parallelized across all the cores. All right, so now, Abby, while you're here, one other thing I'm wondering is when we look at mountains, for example, on the map, mm-hmm. We see like these lines that represent obviously like height changes, but how does it go about setting up like this type of topographical map?
I'm not entirely sure of the details, but I think those are like ISO lines of the height map.
Interesting. So it's like wherever there's a height of this amount, then it draws this type of line?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I could check the map rendering code, see if I can give a more detailed answer than that.
Yeah, dive into the source code here. Very cool. Also, Zester, I see you in the event stage, and do you want to do a little section on some of the recent changes you've been working on? All right, so I'll get you to join the StreamYard. And Abby, we're just getting some keyboard feedback from you. If you wouldn't mind muting.
What's the mute on which the?
I guess just StreamYard.
Okay.
And then I can't tell what the stage sounds like, and so I'll have to tell you there. All right, so yeah, the minimap doesn't work on the stairway in the dungeon. It rounds height. So yeah, James is mentioning about, I think, the minimap. Oh, no, wait. Or is James talking about the maps over here? So James says it rounds height and uses modulo operator, if I recall. I should know considering I wrote it, lol. Someone will need to take over the PvE arena. I think Zester is Gribbles, but I might be mistaken. Okay, let's go check out this PvE arena. Okay. We got some battles going on. Nice. So some bosses. I'm kind of just spectating with my strong gear. That's a lot of players right here. Also, it would be interesting if in the party later on, maybe we can set the location party to a gnarling stronghold. Oh, we got Phil in here. So we got some gnarlings over here. Not too far from where we are. All right, so while we are waiting for Zester, I'm going to go take a look at... Oh yeah, I guess there's some chat stuff that I should go over. Toggle minimap view, then you can see when zoomed in. Okay. Oh, that's cool. So I could just see like the ocean underneath. And then this is like a map view without the lines on them. Zester, I will send you a link here. Oh, we got some fireworks. Nice. Some Aurora Borealis. All right, so I think there's a gnarling fort off to the west. Oh, wow, I didn't know that the city was this large because it doesn't render in the full size, but holy smokes, it's still going. That's crazy. Yeah, so I'm really interested in where like the boundary is between like directly player created content versus procedurally generated. So for example, like one big city that is always like that like looks the same and stuff that is just placed around the map could be like an interesting kind of feature to have. Like no matter what like mode or generation or anything you're playing, you can like expect that there's like one city that is like generated in the way that you expect it to be. And so it would be interesting to see like where that crossover is. But then on the other hand, the amount of work that's been done recently on like the site system, which we weren't able to include in this release just because it came a bit too close to the test. But there's like an overhaul of how like towns look at this point. And actually, let's okay. I'm gonna keep flying over to the gnarling encampment over here. All right, I see Zester in the streamer. So Zester, I'm going to bring you in here. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Great.
All right. So you've been working a lot this release on changes like I know you've done a lot of stuff with like water shaders, with the waterfalls, a lot of like the mounts overhaul. And so, yes, you're here with me now. Very cool. Is this the Gnarling Fort? Yes.
Looks like it.
All right. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the stuff that you've been working on?
I've managed to forget which was part of this release and which was part of a previous release.
Yeah, I feel that as well. Well, tell us a little bit, let's say, like about the mount system.
Yeah, so mounts are a thing that's been in quite a long time coming. We had an older system in the game for about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, that allowed you to mount an entity. But it had quite a lot of bugs associated with it. The implementation was extremely crude. And so I ended up removing it entirely, actually, because it wasn't the sort of thing that we wanted to expose to players. There were bugs like you would be able to die on an entity and the game would still think that you were sat on the entity. Yeah, it just wasn't great, really. And so I wrote the entire thing from scratch again. And it seems to work a lot better now. There are a lot of annoying cases to catch. In particular, when you have two entities that are conjoined in that way. So you have a relationship between the entities whereby one is the mount and one is the rider, obviously. It makes a lot of problems a lot harder to solve because then you've got to synchronize all of this state between the two. And if the state of one entity changes, you've got to update the state of the other. And so there are a lot of complications there. And that's why it took as long as it did to get into the game. But it's in now. And it seems to be relatively bug-free, although I'm sure there are still some. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And so I think having seen some of the the video that you made about it, one of the biggest things is like how well it flows together. And so like it's really like when you're writing something, you're very much an extension of it rather than like it feeling like something you're trying to like control as like a little bit delayed or not like physically set up properly. And so yes, okay, we have someone right here with or that is you, I guess. Is it possible for me to get that set up easily?
Yeah, let me
yeah, for context, I have very little knowledge on how the
pseudo you, but you'll have to do spawn pet horse.
All right. Okay, and then do I need something to?
Okay, I should be audible in Discord now. Yeah, so hopefully you should be able to spawn yourself an entity.
Okay, so I think I could, but then do I need a saddle to ride it?
No. So just do.
Just spawn pet horse.
This
okay.
Yeah. And it'll automatically.
Oh, F to mount. Okay. Okay. This is very cool. Holy smokes!
And the nice thing as well is that you can still do combat on top of an entity. So
yes.
A very interesting thing with mounts is that the reason that they were easier to implement than they otherwise would be is because in Veloren, the code that runs for NPCs and for players is almost identical. So I think I've mentioned it in the past, but it's worth me mentioning it again. When you control your player in Veloren, your keyboard inputs aren't being mapped directly to the movement of your character. They're being mapped to a sort of a virtual controller, and this virtual controller allows your entity to be moved. So there's like a second layer of indirection going on there, and it turns out that NPCs use exactly the same virtual controller. It's exactly the same data type. And so effectively, a player and an AI are doing the same thing. They're basically just providing inputs to the virtual controller. And so when mounting, what happens is that the entity's virtual controller inputs get overridden by the players, and therefore the entity moves as the player would.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think like this idea of, oh no, I've fallen into a cavern. All right, well, we're gonna explore this. So yeah, the idea of like the virtual controller being the same really like makes sense in the sense like that if I just pass the input to whatever, then it's able to work with it and understand. And so it's not that like it's very much just accepting my WASD like as is. Oh, so where am I? Okay, so I heard of the fact that there were caverns in Gnarling Forts, but I did not think it would be like this. This is so cool.
Oh wow, this is a deep one.
Yeah.
It looks like the boss has already been killed, but
yeah, I think we showed up to
we can run around in the remnants if we like.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. I love the feeling of like, yeah, you just like go into this cavern and then and the grass in here isn't luminant, is it?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know. It wasn't
I don't think so.
But it would be possible to make it so if we so wished.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, can I ride the horse out of here? Horse climb. Oh, it kind of.
But so they'll make an attempt and they can jump.
Yes.
I think a horse can actually jump 3 blocks or maybe even 4 blocks.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm seeing here. Is I can get a little bit higher than before.
It will also just teleport you if you climb out and you move too far from it. Where is the way out? I've completely got myself lost. I think it might be this way.
There we go. I have. Oh no, the horse died because I took fall damage with it. I just jumped a few times. Okay, so yeah, now that it's dawn, we can see a little bit more of like the Gnarling Fort here. So one thing, I mean, we've done the recent reading clubs with taking a look at how Site 2s are set up and how like we can go and generate a lot of these shapes and how like they tie into World Gen and stuff like that. But when it comes to like a big fort that's like this is like a pretty monumental. It's like it feels like it's at the same level as like a town sort of. Like we have enemies in here that are spawned. We have guard towers and everything. And so so if we imagine like how complex a system could be the setup, it's really eased by the fact that you can sort of like design each one of like these houses sort of in like the CSG manner. So you sort of like describe how the geometry should interact. You can describe how these totems might interact, and then you sort of put them together.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't want to take any credit for the Gnarling Fortress because it wasn't me, and it was built by Slipton, James, and Sam, and maybe a few others as well. I don't recall, but they made some really amazing stuff with the Site 2 code. But yeah, the way Site 2 works is that it allows you to construct shapes in a similar way to CAD tools, so that's computer-aided design tools. You can take basic shapes and you can combine them together using Boolean operations. So you can take the union of 2 shapes or the intersection, and by combining lots of fairly simple primitives together, you can create obviously very complicated shapes. And this is just a really good example of how powerful that system is. Really, it allows us to create pretty complicated structures in a way that looks authentic, and without needing to pre-model all of the elements. All of the elements can be entirely done in software and can be entirely programmed and made as dynamic as we want, really.
Yeah, and like the beauty of it is that we stay within this procedural sort of way of doing things, and it gets really like interesting, and it definitely feels like when we're doing stuff like this, it can interact with the surroundings in like a very elegant way, where like right now it's like in the middle of these woods sort of, which is like a very cool way of having it set up, and then the walls around it are like sort of built as puzzle pieces almost, and Yeah, it definitely adds a lot to the world.
Yes, so obviously the example of doing things in software and doing things in a dynamic way is that you can decide to alter the way that a particular structure generates depending on the surroundings. So, for example, as you can see here, the walls are vertically aligned with the terrain, and so you get a gentle slope in each of the walls.
Yeah.
And this is only possible really because we can bring things like the terrain altitude into the generator itself and alter the output of the generator depending on those things. And it's going to be really great in the future when we start to have a lot more detail in the world. So, for example, we might have things like dynamic elements of the world, like civilizations and diplomacy and so on, and all of those things might change and might affect the structure of a site.
Now, on this topic, like I had brought it up a little bit ago when we were looking at the city that Hannibal crafted, and so where do you see like the sort of line between what is procedural and what might be built custom by someone and then introduced into the game? Or do you have any opinions on that?
I don't think there is a line. I think it's a very gradual process, and I see procedural generation not as an alternative to art, but as an alternative form of art.
Yes,
it's a very interesting mix of art and science, really. You're on the one hand, you're using a lot of mathematics to coordinate all of the structures and to put them in the right places, and on the other hand, it's very much a sense of being able to visualize the thing that you're trying to create and the way that you might structure that in order to reach your own goal. And I think what's interesting in particular about procedurally generating things is that you can have an idea for what you want to generate in your head, and then the generator can go and generate many variants, all of them that differ in interesting and subtle ways, but all of them pertain to the original goal that you designed it around.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing, or just like to add on there a little bit, is like that this goal interacts with so much around it. It's not just its own thing. And so like this is the beauty of the fact that like when we say we're inspired by games like Dwarf Fortress, and everybody's like, okay, well, where does it act? Like, where is Dwarf Fortress in this game? And as we start building a lot more things of the world interacting with itself and having reason for being there, then it becomes a lot more like I come across something and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense that like I can see why this is like this. And so there's definitely like I definitely agree with your sense of like it being like beauty and art.
So one of the things I often say is that procedural generation is not randomness, it's the very opposite of randomness. It's about creating through the interaction of systems meaning and place for objects in the world. So for example, this gnarling fortress appears in the middle of a woods, and that isn't a coincidence because the generator is designed to place them in woods, for example, and all of those things come together to create a coherent aesthetic. And good procedural generation is simply a layering of those different emergent mechanics on top of each other in order to create a world that feels like it has meaning without needing to be entirely handcrafted.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm over in the water now. I'm just taking a look at some of like the new shaders of stuff underwater. And so when you went through like this overhaul, did you have like anything in mind in terms of like inspiration for what you wanted it to look like? So for example, like off in the distance we can see like it gets a little bit blurry. In shallow water I can see light contours reflecting against the bottom. Do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
I mean, the inspiration was primarily the existing shader code written by Sharp, which did a lot of interesting things with light extinction, and I hope I've lived up to the high expectations he created. But really, I just wanted the water shaders to create a sort of an aesthetic. I wanted them to feel terrifying in a way. When you go into the shadows, it feels very peaceful and serene. But when we go out into deeper water, for example, if you teleport towards me or teleport to where I am.
Oops, easy.
Let me find a deeper
I'll just fly over there. Oh wait, that's gonna be the city. This should be a lake over here, maybe. I think this should be deep.
I'm gonna try to find us a shipwreck because the ships
yes, okay.
are pretty fun. I'm gonna have no hope of finding one. They're quite hard to find, especially because the water makes it incredibly hard to see down.
I mean, even you just go underwater, and I played like games like Sea of Thieves, and I love like how they handle boats and water and stuff. But as soon as I go below the surface, I definitely get the feeling it's like, okay, well, what's down there? And like as I'm descending now, it's getting darker.
Yeah. So if we dive down, and you'll notice everything will begin to get darker, and if you look up, the light from the sun and the clouds are refracted on the water.
Yeah.
In a way that's relatively realistic.
Yeah, that's what I found as well. Like, yeah, looking up from underwater had some very cool effects. Yeah. Oh wow, we're in the darkness at this point.
It was. Is it just a rock down here?
I've reached the bottom.
Why am I
this is very oh, there's a that's a person. I've seen like travelers walking underwater. Like, it was a very interesting sort of effect. Oh, cool! The seaweed's big.
Oh, it is just a rock down here, I think. Yeah.
But I mean, even just checking this stuff out. This is so cool. And like even like how far down I am, like I can't even see the surface of the water anymore. Let me turn off my light and look up. Yeah. It's dark.
Yeah, you can just about see the blue above you, but
yeah,
even that will begin to disappear if you go much deeper.
Exactly, yeah.
And what I really like about these kind of effects is that despite the fact that we exist in the same world as everyone else in the server, in the same sort of physical space, it doesn't really feel like it's the same space. You know, you can't tell what time of day it is down here. There's no way to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's completely black, and so it's almost like you have many different worlds layered on top of each other and created by the environment.
Mm-hmm. I see something off in the distance that's reflecting some light. Oh, it's just reflecting the light of my lantern. That's interesting, I think.
Oh no, I think this is just more seaweed, isn't it?
All right, I'm going to end off the stream here pretty soon just because I do have to get going to something else. However, I do want to remind people we're going to have like a reading club next week, I think. I don't know the exact date. It's probably like Thursday or Friday. But we'll be doing one with Christoph. We're going to do a deep dive into some stuff with Git. And so learning about version control, learning about contributing to projects. So this is going to be like a little bit of an addendum in some ways to the last reading club. And other than that, actually, let me take a look. So right now we're at 167. Okay. Let's see what our peak was for number of players. Last hour. 195, I think. Yeah, it looks like 195 if I had to guess. But yeah, this has been super cool seeing some stuff about... I think like for me, I really like the water shaders just because it adds so much as like you're exploring underwater, and then it makes it, as you're saying, it's like another place for people to be. Also with gnarlings, like these were something that like when they were added, they're just like such a big thing. That is like one feature, and so I think definitely excited for 0.13. We already have like several things that are ready to be merged, but are just going through code review. And so we have modular weapons coming up. We have Site 2 towns coming up. I'm trying to think of other things. I feel like Sam had another.
We have the M1 builds.
Yes, Mac M1 builds. And so if you have an M1 chip, then You'll be able to do that soon. Anything else we have?
I think a fun thing to head out on might be to swim up towards the surface and see the blue emerging again.
Yes, I've done this a few times for when I was recording yesterday, and oh yeah, the light is so cool. You see the sun up there, and I come out and it's like daytime. Yeah, so cool. And then we got like the pink sky and everything. We're just out in the middle of the ocean. Are we off the? No, we're not even off the map. We're just because it's a circular map now. We're just like out of the bay, sort of. All right. Well, super cool. Thank you to all the developers who came out and spoke a little bit about some of the things. And we'll keep the release server up for probably a few days, I imagine, with like this map and everything like that. But this was a super awesome release. I'm really happy with the trailer being able to show stuff off with all the features. I mean, it was a 5-month long release, and so there's a lot to show off. So thank you, Zester. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, XMac. And we will see everybody next time.